Good morning to you all tuning in from Asia, and greetings to everyone else either staying up late or waking up early to catch the opening keynote at this fourth Global Digital Development Forum. A very warm welcome to you all. How can technology benefit people in the margins? The search for an answer to this question led our keynote speaker, Kamal Quadir, to turn to e-commerce in Bangladesh. In 2005, he launched the electronic marketplace Sell Bazaar, and by 2010, the platform had already had 4 million users. A year later, Kamal Quadir launched bKash, the mobile financial service that works through a network of community-based agents armed with nothing more than mobile phones. bKash is reaching both the underbanked and the unbanked and has already become synonymous with digital payments in Bangladesh. Kamal Quadir, we are thrilled to have you with us today. Eid Mubarak, and welcome to the main stage of GDDF.
Thank you, Manisha. And it's very kind of GDDF community for inviting me.
So let's first set the scene for our audience. I'd like us to play a 60-second segment from a short CNN video about bKash.
টাকা আসছে 2096 সালে আসছে আমি আসার পর থেকে কোনো সমস্যা ছিল না আমার হাজবেন্ডের মুদির দোকান ছিল ব্যবসা করতে ভালোই ছিলাম এরপরে আস্তে আস্তে এখন ছেলে মেয়ে হয়েছে এরপরে 2012 সালে এসে উনি স্ট্রোক করে হঠাৎ করে মারা যায় অনেক সমস্যার সম্মুখীন হইছি আমি মানে মেয়ে মানুষ দোকানদারি করে এমন কি দোকান যখন ছিল না আমি ভ্যানে করে বাসার থেকে মাল টাইনে এনে রাস্তার মধ্যে আমি দোকানদারি করছি bKash এজেন্ট নিছি এরপর থেকে এখন মোটামুটি আমি ভালো পজিশনে আছি ভালো অবস্থায় আছি কারণ মানুষের বিপদ আপদ আছে bKash নিয়ে বসছি কি জন্য মানুষের হেল্প করার জন্য ব্যাংকে হলে লাইন ধরে দাঁড়াইতে হয় সময় লাগে আজকে হবে না কালকে হবে অনেক ঘন্টা পর ঘন্টা এখন তো আমার এটা হচ্ছে না এখন টাকা দিচ্ছে সাথে সাথে bKash চলে যাচ্ছে ওদের জন্য এই জিনিসটা অনেকটাই ভালো হয়েছে অনেকটাই উপকার হয়েছে হেল্প করে দেখে আমরা সবাই bKash দিদি আর সবাই আমার থেকে মানে আসার সাথে সাথে জিনিসটা পেয়ে যায়
So bKash Didi alludes to this long queues to access services in Bangladesh, right? So I wanted to begin our conversation there today and to ask you, Kamal, to walk us through the gaps in financial services in Bangladesh and tell us how bKash is bridging those gaps. For example, how are you leveraging the country's regulatory framework and communication networks? And how are you designing for social and cultural context of Bangladesh?
Well, thank you, Manisha. I think the most important thing is that there is no, we might be spearheading a very important movement as a practitioner, but it's not a one-person show. Okay? It's a combination of many forces coming together, and so things like when you talk about bKash, we are basically digitalizing the economy, and that's where the government plays a very important role. Every government issued currency, which central bank issues, has Treasury Secretary's signature in the US, central bank governor's signature here. So what it symbolizes in a very simple way is that the state is involved in it. So the first you talk to the policymakers sees the opportunity. They also have vision given by the political direction. Okay. So combining all these things, you create a combination of forces that eventually gives shape of what we are seeing today. So we need to be very mindful about one thing that as a lot of exciting things are happening across the world. And I was hearing your colleagues talking about AI developments and all this. And the kind of revolution we have seen in Bangladesh or at least developing countries with mobile phone in the last 20, 25 years, there's a tremendous opportunity for us to maximize the technological innovation that is taking place in developed world, massive R&D spending that's happening there, And once that happens, how do we bring that to countries like Bangladesh? And the applied element of it, okay, is where we can maximize and take the leapfrog opportunity and take it to a level that where community gets and the people gets heavily benefited. So to give the best example, say a mobile phone, which happened in has revolutionized things. Actually, I hate you. I'm very careful about using the word revolution. Altered, changed, transformed a lot of things in Bangladesh. But the R&D of mobile technology took place somewhere else. Okay, the battery technology, the way it has been innovating in last 50 years, had tremendous impact in generating where mobile phone has reached 25 years ago, and then subsequent development. So if you look at where we are capitalizing the technological development somewhere else, and the country's desire, the government's desire to digitalizing things in Bangladesh, and then central bank putting together proper policy, and eventually practitioners like us putting all this thing together and making sure customers reach the service, and we provide the service in a compliant way and in a way that brings the benefit to the society, and we create a viable business. Okay, it's a for-profit business at the end of the day. So I think looking at that holistic way, I think eventually helps. I think answering the question you have. Have I answered the way? I mean,
Yeah.
does it help?
Yeah, you have. I mean, I guess in addition to the regulatory framework that allows you to do this, I mean, the communication network in Bangladesh is pretty extensive as well, right? So that probably rides that as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to add over there, like 90, it's a small country, as big as Wisconsin physically, and it has half the U.S. population almost, and so, and we are self-sufficient in food. So the reason I bring the food part, that when you hear a term like this, Wisconsin, half the U.S. population, you feel like the entire country probably is like Times Square. Okay, but it's not. It's Singapore has more density of population than Bangladesh does, but Singapore is very well designed in terms of how an urban society will be living. Here too, combination of agricultural output as well as dense population, densely living environment. Eventually, it is an environment where mobile communication has thrived because of the dense population. But I also want to emphasize that it doesn't mean that there's people everywhere. There's empty land and people are growing sufficient food in those empty land that the country of 170 million people is self-sufficient in food.
As I was listening to you, I was thinking about Zello and Venmo on my phone, right? There's a learning curve, like, steep, gradual, whatever. And when you're adopting like a digital service, there's always a learning curve. But, you also talk about reaching like unbanked and underbanked in Bangladesh who are not necessarily literate, right? How do you build a framework for a digital financial service like bKash in a country where financial literacy itself may be rudimentary and digital literacy even less so? How do you do that?
Oh, not rudimentary. I wouldn't say that. Okay, but
Okay.
I know what you're saying. But let me look at the history a little bit here. First of all, Bangladesh has a history of financial innovation. I mean, microfinance development took place from here, and subsequently it spread all over the world. And central bank was also very involved at that time. So both from a policymaker's point of view and practitioner's point of view, the country has tremendous history. Okay. So what I would say that trust, ultimately, financial service is based on trust. Okay, and we made sure that trust is built effectively. So not only our service remain all along under the direct supervision of Bangladesh Central Bank, also Central Bank formulated a model of ownership where a bank is the controlling shareholder of the company, and that bank also has its tremendous reputation. It happens to be BRAC Bank, initiated by the largest developing organization in the world, BRAC. So BRAC has certain reputation. BRAC Bank has certain reputation, and they obviously BRAC came much before than BRAC Bank. BRAC Bank came, I think, around 12 years before bKash was licensed. So subsequently, when people saw bKash on day one, they also saw there is a history behind it. Okay, so it's basically you are seeing a sphere. A sphere is moving forward, but behind the sphere there is a massive wooden stand behind it. So similarly on bKash, it's a new kind of service. People got to know about it first, like around 12 years ago, but they also recognize central bank regulates it. BRAC is a major shareholder, and the other shareholder of bKash is also reputed institutions. Okay, and it's IFC from the World Bank Group, and also then you have Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and group from Alibaba Group and SoftBank, and also Money in Motion, which also brings reputed entrepreneurs leadership who have done large-scale technology companies before. So it's a combination of all those factors that people did not see, or we did not demonstrate because in the day one that it just suddenly popped up from the ground. It is a institution that has a lot of thinking behind it. Let me put it this way. bKash was licensed in 2010. I started working on it from 2008. So for 2 years, it was just in my laptops, okay, and just going to relevant places and relevant forces. That includes Bangladesh Central Bank, that includes Fazli Hassan Abed, who founded BRAC. And then, we brought a very solid set of professionals working in the organization. Okay, so when it comes to doing audit, we made sure by January 31st our audit is done, and always done by one of the big 4 audit firms. So the goal was to build an institution which is fundamentally designed to have business viability. So these factors, when you put it together, okay, generated trust and eventually giving good service and customers seeing that what is being promised is being delivered.
Right. So I'm going to pull a question from the chat. So one of the audience members is asking, how does bKash compare to M-Pesa? And is it as flexible? And how do you deal with scams?
Wow. Well, I love this question. So first of all, let's look at it. There is a regulatory framework which is different in Bangladesh than M-Pesa ecology. It is fully regulated by central bank from the day one. Okay, we were not an initiative by a mobile operator. So customers' fund protection and the visibility of the fund flow was always paramount to us, and that is the fundamental difference between M-Pesa and us. I'm not saying M-Pesa has anything shady. It's just it's a different framework than central bank stepping in from the day one. Okay, in Bangladesh, it's the central bank is our ultimate. It's under their jurisdiction we operate. Okay, we are not. Unlike M-Pesa, we are not a mobile operator. So that's the number one thing, regulatory framework-wise. Let me add a little bit more. We were a natural fit. So we are a financial service regulated by central bank. And I believe I hope I'm not describing it wrongly. It's in case of M-Pesa, it was Safaricom, the telephone company's service, which was got accommodated for financial service. So this accommodation and natural fit, this is I think the major difference. Now let's talk about ease of use. Because Safaricom was part of the large mobile network operator, and the mobile network operator was already operating in the country, life became a bit easier for them, okay, because they can use the mobile handsets, the device advantages with the SIM they are providing when you buy. I'm talking about, M-Pesa started 5 years before us, so 17 years old history. We started 12 years ago. So every time you buy a SIM, the SIM already had M-Pesa's or Safaricom's own language in it, like the code was already embedded. In our case, we had to go to the operator and incentivize them adequately, and work with the policymakers so we get access to the network. So it was not it's not that the baby was born. The two differences, one is baby was born in our case. Oh, let's talk about M-Pesa first. Baby was born and daddy wanted the baby to go stronger, and daddy provided all kind of support. In our case, baby was born and baby had to forage and figure out how to make a living.
Right. Another question from the chat again. What is bKash doing to bridge the gender digital divide?
We're trying, and we have made good progress actually. The split between bKash man woman 46-54, so it's not that bad. Okay, so even the question this question Manisha sometimes makes you think like, is it 30-70? No, it's already quite advanced. Okay, so I would love to see it's 50-50. There are many factors behind it. There is I'm trying to remember the organization's name. I think former British Prime Minister Tony Blair's wife, I think she runs this organization, which looks after the handset divide between man and woman, male-female gap. So there is an inherent...
The Sherry Blair Foundation, I think, right?
Sherry Blair Foundation works on that. So I was going through one of the reports. So there are many reasons existing in the world, and I'm not going into those reasons, why the more men are using mobile phone than women. So there is already a split. Okay, so somebody else is working on that split. I'm not getting into that space. There's already biasness is existing. Within that biasness, 54-46, I think is a good progress. But let's look at what are the things we're working on it. Okay, all our communication from the day one has been, it's a woman protagonist has been communicating with customer, except one campaign, and it was a conscious call. It's the woman who comes and tells how to use bKash or how to avail certain service. I think that kind of effort from the day one, it helped. Okay. The other thing is lately we recognize that because our registration effort was designed in such a way that you have to go to the agent point, you need to provide your national ID card details, photocopy of a national ID card, your phone number, your photo, and this is all prescribed by the central bank. Now, when you do that, that was causing certain compromises with the privacy issues. Some female potential users were not feeling comfortable providing that to an unknown agent, and so bKash came up with a good, solid biometric facial recognition technology in partnership with the FIU of Bangladesh, They are the one who we worked with them, and they are the one who created the regulatory framework behind it. So the reason I say this thing, it all sounds exciting, but behind the exciting part, there is a long tail of regulatory effort being made to mitigate all the risk. We could have just rolled out biometric facial recognition technology on the day one. Okay. Now, when that would create a some kind of risk that we're not articulating it right now, you need to have a regulatory framework behind it. What allowed bKash to offer such service? Okay. So that's when it almost 2 years of exercise went with the regulator creating the framework. But once that was done, I mean, the reason I'm sharing that, technology was done long time ago. It almost like if I look at that, it was a 2 year long initiative. Technology was done by the first quarter, and the remaining 7 quarter was to align everybody about this thing. And as you know, hardware can be replaced very quickly. Software takes a long time to replace. Okay? And that software includes mindset, framework, regulatory understanding, and creating all kind of alignment. Anyway, to make it simple, once the regular biometric facial recognition technology was launched, we saw the woman adoption rate going up dramatically, because then even 3 in the morning, if somebody wants to open an account, they can open it by themselves. They are not depending on anybody, or they are not obviously sharing their photos or their national ID card, their mobile number to any stranger. And we campaigned that very strongly. Okay? And that really attracted another big number of, I wouldn't say avalanche, but large number of women users we saw signing up for bKash. So one is some soft kind of development. I mean, always use a woman to communicate. Other is technical intervention, okay, that allowed this kind of number to be achieved. So whoever asked that question about gender, I think we're in the right direction. I'd love to see one day 50-50.
Right. You've also talked about this network of human ATMs. What percentage of that, the human ATMs, for want of a better word, is there also sort of like a 40-60 breakup there?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. Because when I met Manisha, you and I met, I think you're from Nepal. So the cultural differences between Nepal and Bangladesh, despite the distance, which is not much, is quite a lot. One has a hilly culture, another has a flat plain culture. Hilly culture is one way of human development growth took place in a plain. Our development and growth are very different. But despite that, there are sufficient similarities that we talked about this thing, that we have female agents in the market, but very small number compared to the 330,000 agents that we have, and simply because it's the socio-economic factors that we are operating. We know, we have not come to a point yet in Bangladesh where women running a shop is very common. Okay, and it's for various reasons are there behind such a position. But we have the certain area we have made a tremendous progress. For example, the ready-made garments sector that we have in the country is very much dominated by female workers. The microfinance operation is very much, the participants are predominantly women, and many of the NGO activities. But the mainstream shops where bKash is present today the ratio is not anywhere close to 46-54. So I expect the women participation to go up further, and hope it. But what I'm trying to say that the participants generating access to finance for them is one issue, and having an agent running the human ATM or agent, whatever you call it, them being a female, I don't think it doesn't make much difference in terms of people's access to finance. And increasingly, while the agents are very important, people are pulling money. So let's put it this way: if I am a textile worker, or if I'm running a small little business, I don't need to visit an agent. So my purpose because I'm a worker working for a factory, digital currency in the form of salary, salary in the form of digital currency straight coming to my account. Or I'm running a small business, I can pull money from my bank to my bKash account. So the need for an agent to be female, okay, will be a force feed, okay. If there are some naturally, some woman wants to be an agent, we welcome that very much. But if there is no natural force, but really push them simply to sound a bit cool, we have not run the business that way.
Right. So, let's just say I'm a micro entrepreneur somewhere in Bangladesh. Let's say I have a small house in a village, a corner of which faces a busy road. So I've been running a little shop. I've got 5th grade, can do basic math. I have a Facebook account. How can bKash help me? Like, can I combine my bKash account with my Facebook profile for some reason and expand the business? Have you sort of like looked into that? Or is that?
Yeah, so bKash has been customer centric from the day one. So let's put it this way. I mean, 12 years ago when we started, our life would have been much more fun and easy if you would have gone for smartphone adoption. Okay, rather we went to the USSD platform, because fundamentally, if smartphone would be limited to a bunch of guys in urban environment and relatively wealthy, financially comfortable people who can afford a smartphone 12 years ago. And we didn't go in that direction. We went to the painful road of pursuing the mobile operator to give access to USSD code, and subsequently with a basic phone like $10, $15 phone, you can sign up and interact with the platform. Okay. So that's just one example of us being heavily customer centric. Okay, but when we went to the app direction, now it's a large number of customers are using app because the handset price has gone down following the Moore's law, as well as access to handset. There's lots of financing is available. Okay, so within that arrangement, there are many features that we're using that's was going to use the customer to link up their businesses. So a large number of large number of users are linking their social media platform with bKash account. And we also have a separate program, so to attract the mom and pop merchants who are operating from their home. We also work with the regulator, because there's a little tricky situation that unless you have a trade license, you cannot operate a shop. And if you don't have a shop, you're not a merchant. And as a practitioner, we recognize this challenge and talk to the regulator, and they also understood that this is will be a bit of a chicken and egg problem. That unless you're a big enough merchant, you don't have a shop, you cannot have the trade license. If you don't have the trade license, you cannot do the businesses. You cannot do the KYC properly. So central bank, working with Ministry of Commerce, came up with a unique solution. They call it PRA, personal retail account, and I think that is something many countries can adopt from Bangladesh, and they can replicate that. So it's a it's a account opening facility that allows you to do merchant activity without a trade license. Okay, and how you mitigate the risk, they line it up adequately. I mean, the whole purpose of trade license is mitigating risk. So, but there are other devices we have in the world today that when trade license idea was conceptualized 100 years ago, we didn't have it. So we have kind of smart ID today. In India, you have Aadhaar. In Bangladesh, we have the our smart ID network for all the adult citizens, and some other countries are also having this kind of national ID system. Those network, those establishment is public goods, public service. So capitalizing those are also very intelligent way the business as well as the policies have evolved.
Wow, that's fascinating. Kamal Quadir, what a delight it is to talk to you. But like all good things, our time together has come to an end. Before we get booted out from the main stage, let me take a moment to thank you for this rich conversation. Also, thank you to our participants, our audience members that have asked very thoughtful questions and comments on the chat. We have an incredible lineup of speakers for the next 15 hours and into Thursday. Keynotes, lightning talks, breakout sessions, workshops, tech demos, networking sessions. Please attend them all. To stay with us and attend as many sessions as you can. Again, thank you, Kamal Quadir.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you.